Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a popular southern Puerto Rican recipe known as Domplines. It is also known as Arepas or Tortas, all depending what part of the island your family's from. So let's get into it. Alright, so before we jump into the Domplines recipe, I'm going to make a quick pot of some freshly stewed beans. I added a little bit of extra virgin olive oil over medium low heat. These are the beans that I am going to be making. These are soaked small red beans. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and add a couple of pieces of some beef summer sausage. If you don't want to use summer sausage, you can use salchichon, which is pork based, or you can use turkey summer sausage, or if you don't want any meat at all, then just exclude the meat altogether. It's still gonna taste delicious. It's just in Puerto Rico, like when we make habichuelas, beans, there's always some kind of meat. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and add about a quarter of a chopped white onion. I'm gonna give that a really good saute. Until my onions are nice and soft. All right, and once they're nice and soft, it only takes about like a minute and a half. I'm gonna add about a tablespoon and a half of some fresh homemade sofrito. And I do have 2 videos on my channel on how to make sofrito. I say that in every video because it's a very common question that I get. A lot of people that aren't Puerto Rican, they want to know like, what's sofrito? Do I have a video? And yes, I have 2 videos. My very first video is an authentic sofrito recipe. It is my first video, so the quality is not like the best, but it's a good recipe. And then I also have a basic sofrito version. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and add about a tablespoon and a half of some tomato sauce. So this is like the base of the beans. This is where the flavor is at. Okay. Now I'm going to add 1 packet of sazon. If you don't want to use sazon, you can use Goya sazon. You can use any brand you like. I do have a video on my channel on how to make homemade sazon, so be sure to check that out. And the reason why I'm making beans for a Domplines recipe, if you didn't know, is because Domplines is commonly eaten with a side of fresh stewed beans. They just go really, really well together. Now I'm going to add 1 packet of Goya ham sazon, which is just ham bouillon. This is optional. You don't need to add it if you don't want to. It just gives it some extra flavor. And then I'm going to add a cup of soaked beans. Very important that you are measuring the beans once they are soaked because they do expand. I like to soak my beans like in bulk, and then after like a couple hours, I drain it, and then I just save it in the refrigerator, and I just measure a cup at a time when I need it. And then I'm going to add about a cup and a half of water. I'm going to let these beans simmer on medium-low heat while I make my domplines. All right, so now that our beans are cooking, we can go ahead and prepare the domplines. So I'm going to go ahead and add a cup and a half of all-purpose flour. And there's no need to sift the flour unless you want to. And then I'm going to add a little pinch of salt. This is about a quarter of a teaspoon. And a quarter of a teaspoon of baking powder. And now I'm going to add half a teaspoon of some white sugar. Now you don't have to add the sugar if you don't want to. It does not make the bread sweet, the amount that I added. It's just combining the sugar and the salt will give the fried bread, the domplines, or the arepas, tortas, whatever you call it. It gives it a really, really good flavor. I'm going to go ahead and whisk that to combine. All right, so now it's time to add the fat into my dry ingredients. So I'll be using half a stick, which is equivalent to 4 tablespoons of some very, very cold salted butter. You can also use unsalted butter. You want to make sure your butter is extremely cold. I like to stick it in the freezer for about 20 minutes beforehand because when it's super cold, it's a lot easier to grate into the flour mixture. If the butter is a little soft, it has a tendency to get mushy and it's going to be really difficult. It's just going to be a mess, okay? So you want to make sure it's super, super, super cold. And by being cold, it's going to evenly distribute within the flour mixture when you mix it all up. And I'll show you in a little bit. So I'm using butter, but if you want to use like butter flavor shortening, you can. If you want to go super old school, like super country Puerto Rican and use lard, you can do that too. You just need some kind of solid fat in the mixture. So no oil or any kind of liquid fat would not work for this recipe. And then I'm gonna very gently mix it with my wooden spoon. And as you can see, since it's so cold, it's able to evenly distribute within the dry mixture. The flour is coating it very nicely and it looks really, really, really good. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and add about 1/3 of a cup of some warm water. I added a little bit at a time. Like the measuring cup over there on my counter is 1/3 of a cup, but I added only about 1/4 of a cup first just to kind of get a feel of it. The mixture is going to be very dry. You want that, okay? But you don't want it to be super dry. So I found that 1/3 of a cup of warm water was perfect. And then very gently, I'm just kind of like folding / lightly mixing my dough with my wooden spoon. All right, now it's time for the fun part. Now it is time to prepare our dough. So I have a very clean surface. You can use any kind of surface you prefer, a cutting board, a pastry mat, etc. I'm going to add a bit of flour. I just eyeballed it to about 1 tablespoon. This is going to prevent the dough from sticking to the surface. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and add my dough mixture. Now it's going to seem very, very dry. It's going to seem like you didn't add enough water. On top of that, it's on top of a little bit of flour. So you're going to be like, oh no, now it's going to get even more dry. But no, trust the process. It's all going to come together. You do not want this dough to be like super wet or sticky. And if it is, just add a little more flour and it's going to be okay. All right. And by the way, I'm not an expert bread maker. I'm not super great at kneading dough. I try my best, but it gets the job done, okay? So I'm only going to lightly knead this dough for about a minute or so because I want to only very slightly activate the gluten. Gluten is protein in any kind of dough flour mixture, and it's what gives bread its unique texture. Now, domplines or arepas or tortas are relatively flat, but they're slightly puffy. Like I don't want these to be like extremely flat, like a cracker. You know, I still want it to have a bit of thick texture. So what I like to do is just kind of like roll it and then with the palm of my hand, kind of like stretch it upwards and then fold it and then stretch it upwards and fold it. And that is activating the gluten, okay? And as you can see, it is coming together perfectly. It's not super dry or crumbly. It is perfect. All right, and as you can see, it's done because when I stretch it, it kind of springs back together. That's how you know that you activated some of the gluten, and that's how you know you are done. All right, so now that our dough ball is nice and formed, I'm gonna go ahead and cut out like smallish pieces. These are about like, I don't know, like oversized tablespoons or about a tablespoon. I don't want them to be too big. You can make them as big or as small as you like, but the goal is to make them kind of like medium. So all I do is just like pull out a piece, roll it, and then flatten it out. Pretend like it's Play-Doh. So while I make them, when I lay them down on my cutting board, you're going to notice that they kind of tend to shrink inwards a little bit. That's okay. That's normal. Before you put it in the fryer, just like flatten it a little bit with your hand before you throw it into your frying oil. Okay. Like so. Looking good. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and lightly fry my domplines. So I have some vegetable oil. You can use any kind of frying oil you prefer. Set the heat to medium. Once hot, throw in your domplines like so. Just be sure to not overcrowd your pan. And they cook relatively quickly. It takes about like 3 or 4 minutes on each side. So you want to make sure that you're keeping a really, really good eye on them so that they do not burn. All right, and now they are all done and they came out so good. I love that, like, they're not perfect. That's what I love about domplines. Like, they're just so delicious, so crispy, slightly fluffy, and so flavorful. Oh, and the beans came out incredible, just amazing. I am going to have all of the ingredients in the description box below. I will also have a link to every single bean recipe on my channel so far. And now it is time to enjoy. These domplines came out amazing, super delicious, and super easy to make. You can enjoy them like this, the traditional way, with a side of some freshly stewed beans, or you can enjoy them by themselves as a snack. You can also enjoy them with like some bacalao guisado, which is stewed salted codfish. I do have a video on my channel on how to make that, by the way. Or yeah, just with anything that has a very delicious broth. And just like that, that is all for today's video. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please make sure to do so. I come out with Puerto Rican cooking content regularly. Also be sure to hit that notification bell and give this video a thumbs up. And I'll see you next time.